There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With over 140 channels in your vehicle, your all-access trial includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video on Demand. What you love is on now.
And what's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another lunchtime learning session here on CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Hoping everybody had a great weekend. And today we are going into a category which is going to become real relevant just in a few short weeks. I know not everybody wants to hear it, but yeah, we're already there. We're at the end of midsummer, going into the end of summer. And that means, well, actually, it's a happy place for a lot of you shops out there. We're getting into remote starter and security season, which of course is very vital to obviously our industry. And, when it comes to brands that are important to the industry, there's no doubt that our guests today represent a colossal brand with a huge footprint, which is Vox Electronics. More specifically, today we're going to kind of zone in and target in on a brand that means a lot to me because coming up in the industry as an installer way back in the day, and I do mean way back in the day, this was a product that was a go-to product, especially in this category. And to tell us a little bit more about that, we've got the right people on the show today. First up, I'd like to introduce and welcome back again to CMA, Mr. Joe Dentamaro, who's the VP of all things security related over at Vox. Hey, Joe, how's it going?
Great, Ben. How are you today?
I'm really, really good. And we also have Mr. Daniel Bisceglia, which will be joining us. And he's the Director of Product Management. So we get to know a little bit more about products, maybe some new stuff. What's going on, Dan?
Hey, Ben. How are you?
I am super fantastic. I was, it is Monday, so there's always that part. But, I had mentioned just before that this is going into a season. We're heading into a season which is super critical for the well-being of many of the retailers, especially up here in Canada. It's the remote start security season. And I think we can all agree that, a lot of businesses base a huge portion of their numbers on this category. Joe, what do you think? Absolutely.
It's a time of the year I look forward to and a time of the year that I dread, but mostly look forward to. So yeah. It's a great time of the year for us.
Absolutely. And Daniel, what better time than right now to, I understand from the little notes I got from you that we might have some new product to discuss today.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about 3 new models we have in the Prestige lineup, along with some of the technology that we've added over the last year to really compete in the marketplace and also make sure it's easy for the installers to put into vehicles.
Awesome. So if you guys are tuning in, whether live or on demand, you shops and then techs out there, get a chair, get some notes, because we're going to give you some info that might just help you out this season. Joe, we're going to start with you. For those who don't know, Prestige is a brand under Vox Electronics. You've been with this brand for a long time. Can you shed some light on not only the brand itself, but a little bit of its evolution of late?
Sure, absolutely. So, Vox has been around for a long, long time. The Prestige brand launched in 1965. Wow. So it goes back quite some time. I think I was 4 in 1965. So the brand and the products have evolved certainly over the decades. And we take a lot of pride in keeping up with the times in all of our remote start product. And since acquiring DEI, we certainly have a lot of brands under the security and remote start lineup for Vox in general. So with our Vox branded products, we have Prestige, Pursuit, and Code Alarm. Most of that product is all analog based product. And then we do all of our digital remote start product on the Vox side under our Flash Logic brand. And then, of course, with directed, all the brands, Viper, Python, Clifford, et cetera. So specifically today, talking about Prestige, we use all those brands in different distribution strategies and segments of the market. Our Prestige lineup, typically here in the States, We do a combination of through distribution and dealer direct. Mostly in Canada is all done through distribution, our Prestige lineup. So again, it's focused strategically for us on the analog type of products, from basic security to LoRa, long range, two-way LCD, and remote start. So we've got a little bit of everything in between there.
For me, the Prestige brand has always represented reliability. It was a go-to product for so many installers for so many years, and continues to be. You mentioned analog, and although we're living in a world of such technology and digital products, do you think there's still a place for analog? Before we get into this conversation, I'd like to pick your brain on that.
Yeah, absolutely. We've always had a philosophy at Vox of giving the dealer what they want, right? So we kind of have a little bit of, like I said before, a little bit of everything for everybody, every type of dealer. But we've seen strategic shifts in products based on the markets, right? So Canada, we saw shifted to digital a lot more aggressively and a lot faster than we did in the US, or other parts of the world too. I mean, we sell Prestige all over the world, but the two biggest markets for us are the US and Canada, especially for remote start. But specifically for analog, I would say we're still a good on the Vox side, 70% analog, 30% digital.
Interesting.
Directed, I would say that's a little bit skewed the other way. Obviously, more digital. Not saying any one or the other is going to be around any longer than the other. There's attributes to those products that some dealers like, some dealers dislike, some people know, some, depending on the technicians or the installers doing the product. Some guys probably in our industry probably have never installed an analog starter. It's all digital. And
as you're saying this, I'm trying to think of all the people I know in the industry, and I know a lot of the older ones, but a lot of new guys coming up, and they're getting involved in the conversations, and that it's a little bit like that record player versus digital music service kind of thing, because there's old school guys that feel that this is more reliable. They know it. You give them a vehicle, they can go in there, and sometimes in many cases, and I think you may mention this in a private about another conversation we had, Joe, maybe sometimes even faster than putting in a T-harness.
Yeah,
in some situations.
Yeah, our dealer base, and certainly I would say more so on the expediter side of the business, the guys that do a lot of car dealer work, and we have brands specifically for that. Our Pursuit brand is specifically for the new car dealer channel, but with everything, there are some guys that do Prestige at the new car dealer. There's some that do Viper at the new whatever. But those guys typically are the ones that, while they embrace digital, and don't get me wrong, they embrace digital. We've had plenty of conversations, especially down in the entry level one button starters here in the States, where by the time you take a digital starter, a T-harness, and that cost, labor, parts, etc., versus an analog starter with an interface module, and this can go a lot deeper. We still have plenty of customers that are using key in the boxes or wrapping keys.
Mm-hmm.
So people really take it down to that level and analyze their costs on that. And again, we're not buying or selling. We agree on both sides of that. I've personally found over my career, when you start force feeding something down a dealer's throat, it's not a good.
Doesn't end well.
Right?
Okay.
End well.
So before we get to Dan, because I know we want to talk about some products specifically, I want you to help me finish this sentence. I'm a dealer. I would be interested in looking closer at Prestige because.
Well, certainly for this year and this season. I don't know that I'm breaking any news here. People have already seen all the issues that we're dealing with component shortages and shipping delays. And not that hasn't come over to the analog side, but the digital side of our business, I I think for everybody, and I can only speak for Vox and our core products, but I know all the other people in our industry, and they're feeling the same pinch when it comes to mostly IC chips that are for the digital products. So we'll be in stock in digital products. We'll have digital products. We have tens of thousands of them on order. That's not the issue. It's the delivery. So for me, this year, we have a lot more analog product in stock. We're shipping a lot more analog product. We brought back a bunch of analog SKUs on the directed lineup that in Clifford and Viper and Python that they were sunsetting. We brought those back because, again, the dealers wanted analog. So my thing is availability this year for analog versus digital, and then dealers just to do a comprehensive overview of their pricing on the models and see where they fit, and then whatever route they choose to go, they go. But I think this year, if you're going to be in the remote start business, you need to visit analog starters a little bit at least.
Somebody chiming in here who knows a thing about remote starters here in Canada. He's saying hello, and he's like, the key in the box is back. Mike, you might not be wrong on that one. All right. Yeah. We got lots of conversation going on over the next few weeks on the remote starter business and the industry that we'll be able to revisit. And of course, Joel will be joining us on that. But for today, let's shift gears a little bit. We got a little bit of an understanding from a Vox perspective, from the brand, where it's from, what it's about. Dan, I'd like to pass the microphone to you because I'd like to talk about some product to get some information to some dealers.
Yeah, so Joe's going to take us through a couple of the new products, and then I'm going to hit on all the technology side of what we've added to our analog starters to make it much easier to install for our dealer base. So Joe, do you want to talk about the models first?
Yeah, for sure. I'll briefly go through this. Again, for Canada and for our Canadian listeners here, for Prestige, I'm sure you guys are all familiar with a distributor up there called Automobility. All of the Vox products, including Prestige, could be acquired for you through certainly through Automobility. And I think Mike Berger was the one that blasted that message up there. Berger,
that was yeah.
will be at your disposal.
And just for the record, for dealers that are listening in, if they wanted to find out more information or find out who their closest distributor is, what would be the best channel? Would that be to go to the website and contact through there?
Yep, that would be good. Or like I said, for Canada, voxelectronics.com/prestige. If you click on more information there, it'll take you to our regional manager who covers that market. But like I said, if you buy today from Automobility or are familiar with Automobility, you could always reach out to them as well. So
okay, awesome.
With the product itself, the APS 997Z has been a long-standing staple in the Prestige lineup. This year, they just started arriving this month, actually. This year, we brought in an additional model to the lineup. This is the APS 997Z LR for long range. So the current 997Z, which will stay in the lineup, these are two different price points and feature sets. The APS 997Z LR is a LoRa-based product, so it will get over a mile range. The regular APS 997Z is a 900 megahertz SST product, which will get up to a mile range. So we added something with a little bit more range in the lineup for Prestige. The other thing that's interesting about our LoRa products, and you'll see them in our RF kits when I get to those, the companion remote is also a two-way remote. So the regular 997Z companion remote is a one-way 5-button transmitter. In all of our LoRa products, the companion remote is a two-way LED 5-button. So if you can notice from the picture there, the little LED light next to each button, that's a two-way LED. So you get a long-range two-way LCD and a long-range two-way LED companion remote. But again, the 997Z product is a full two-way alarm, remote start, and gives you all the features there. Dan will get into those in a second. But that's new this year for us. And you can go to the next one.
That I imagine is the top of the line piece.
That's the top of the line now. The 997Z was. The ZLR will obviously become top of the line for us.
Is that the first LoRa product from Prestige?
It's the first full kit LoRa product. We've had two or three RF kits that we had when we did a component-based program before in Prestige, and then to add to our Flash Logic product. So we're very obviously very familiar with LoRa and that technology, and it's a lot more stable, longer range, consistent. I remember, it wasn't too long ago, 4 or 5 years ago, where there was always issues with range. People were always talking about range. People were always advertising, this gets 3 miles of range. And, we took a stance about 5 years ago to under promise and over deliver range. When we did that, we lost a little bit in the marketing sense, but when we did that, we eliminated a whole lot of upset people and a lot of tech calls saying, this thing says it gets a mile and it only gets 3,500 feet or something like that. So we've done very well with under promise and over deliver, and that's why we use up to a mile and over a mile instead of getting to trying to do precise.
I do have a question. Maybe one of you can help me answer this. Does the with the LoRa, because I haven't had a chance or opportunity to play with the LoRa remote yet, do I still need to do this to increase my range?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't. I've seen people.
You know what I'm talking about.
I've seen people do that, and I would be lying if I didn't do that too. But I think it's either out of habit or just to see what would happen.
Exactly. Okay, I'm just curious. All right.
Yeah, I don't think that's required any longer.
All right.
The next product up in our product line, and just as a brief overview for Prestige, we break our products down to security, remote start, and when we talk about remote start, could be start only or start keyless, and then combos we call them, or remote start and security. So this would fall the APS 57 TM, excuse me, falls into our remote start products. It's a full remote start with keyless entry. Was the APS 57Z. And for those of you that, I said earlier, the Prestige lineup started in 1965. There was a gentleman at Vox named Tom Malone. And if you've been around our industry for any length of time, or certainly a Prestige dealer, I started in 1980 in vehicle security and remote start, and Tom Malone probably started around the same time. And Tom Malone passed away last year during COVID, not of COVID, but during COVID. And every new model that we brought out, we ended it with TM for a little tribute. It's an internal tribute for us to recognize Tom Malone. So that's what the TM means. Usually those reference something, but that's what it references.
That's really cool.
Yeah, for me.
I want to mention to those who are listening to this, you might want to check out, if you want to learn more about Tom, with the really nice tribute collaboration with the MEA during their award ceremony last year, where his daughter came on and did a really nice thing. So if you want to learn a little bit more about Mr. Malone and his legacy with the industry, I do encourage you to go take a look at that.
Yeah, for sure. So the big update that we made going from the APS 57Z, which was the predecessor to the TM, was we added our Flash Logic FL cart port. Some people may refer to that as a blade, but it gives you the ability to slide the interface module into the module, like a Game Boy cartridge or something like that. We still have our FL CAN port on it, so if you use an external interface module, you can still do that. But again, that was the main change from the APS 57Z to the TM. And then our next model with the update was our APS 901. Now this is something, a category, a one-button starter, which for as long as I've been doing this, it continues to boggle my mind This category is probably, when we talk about remote start, probably our number one selling
What?
starter in the
Seriously?
States. Any version of
I
a
thought this was
one-button.
going away. I guess I'm totally off.
It's crazy. In Canada, it's like you can't get arrested with a one-button starter. It's always. I've had numerous calls with Mike Berger, with other people on this logic, and you take a car that comes with factory keyless entry. You can't give up the key anymore. You need that. It has all the keyless entry functionality on the key, and you don't really need a mile range to lock your door or unlock your door. You just want the car to start from that far away. So, put a one-button starter on the car that's all it does. But no, the Canadians still have to have a 5-button long-range remote on the key. I don't know how you explain that to a consumer, but whatever works for you guys. That's but again, here in the States, huge seller, all the way up and down our lineups in every one of our brands in the States. So the 901 was the Z.
I'm sorry, I'm going to stop you, Joe.
Yeah.
I totally my light bulb just went off. Did you just say that in Canada, people don't like the single button and prefer the 5-button?
That's correct.
And in the US, is the opposite trend?
Complete opposite.
Interesting. Honestly, I feel very silly because I literally am looking at this and like, this is useless. Why would I want a 1-button remote? And then you just made me feel.
Yeah, if you take this transmit here, my keys. I'm using obviously a telematics device on my smartphone, but I have to have this key, and all the functionality at lock, unlock, trunk release, etc. is all on this key.
Already on the key.
Already on the key. So if I'm going to put another 5-button remote on here versus a 1-button on here that just does start, I personally think that's just easier to explain to a customer, to operate. But maybe that would be interesting fodder for our roundtable discussion.
Maybe interesting. Okay, I did not know that. That's a very interesting trend. Variable, anyhow. Okay,
I'm sure my Canadian friends on the panel will have a.
There's obviously cost savings in this, right? We're having a 1-button. Yeah, for sure. Okay,
sure, absolutely.
And these are 2-way.
We have 1-button 1-way, 1-button 2-way. Yeah, this particular one is a 1-way kit.
It's a 1-way. Gotcha.
But again, like the 57 TM, this update, we added the FL cart port to it from the 901Z. So those are the 3 new models, excuse me, in the product lineup that we added for this year. Our regular lineup going from the top down would be the APS 997Z and the 787Z. These are our combo kits that I mentioned before. So you get remote start and security, all analog. The nice part about how we've set the Prestige lineup together and talking about step-up features, the APS 787Z is a 1-way. The APS 997Z is a 2-way. Other than that, the products are identical. Same features, same benefits for the consumer. You're just going from a 1-way to a 2-way. And in this particular case, 2-way LCD. Now you would add the third one here, our new 997ZLR, for the same exact thing, but longer range. So the step-ups are very, very simple in the product line.
If I was paying attention, that means the 997Z, however, the companion remote is not a 2-way.
That's correct. It's a 1-way SST, 900 megahertz.
There's your good, better, best scenario, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Then to our, so we have 2 hybrid type of products that we call them. The APS RS3Z is a very entry-level remote start and keyless entry, and the APS RS1Z, again, not very popular in Canada, but for the States, extremely popular. APS RS1Z, a 1-button starter. These kind of fit as very entry level, not as many features as the regular product has, but again, these are very price point driven products, these 2 in the remote start keyless lineup. For security, and then again, I'm sorry, on the last slide, we didn't have the APS 57Z and 901 with these products because we talked about them earlier. But again, the APS 57Z and the APS RS3Z are similar products, remote start and keyless. And the APS RS1Z and the 901TM are similar product, one button starters. But again, this is less features on it.
I want to ask a question. I notice here it says unlimited lifetime warranty. Is that throughout the entire range of product?
Yeah, everything on Prestige, limited lifetime warranty, and the limited in our Vox lifetime warranty across any of our products, the limited is referencing the transmitter when you read the warranty. So the transmitter is 1 year. Everything else is lifetime to the original owner. Of course, there's that gray area in the it's manufacturer's defect. If somebody ran it over or smashed it with a hammer,
right?
Obviously that's not under warranty, but that's with all our products.
All right.
For the security only products, well, there's a typo there that I didn't catch, so I apologize about that. That the last one there up to the far right should be APS 25Z.
Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So we have 3 products in the lineup. Again, a good, better, best scenario for security only. The APS 25Z, the 510Z that gives you some additional outputs. And again, Dan will get into that in a minute. And then the step up from the 510Z to the 596Z, again, is going to 2-way, from 1-way to 2-way. So we have an entry level, the 25Z. Then you add the 510Z if you want to drive additional outputs, sliding doors, things like that on a vehicle, and then up to the 2-way version of that.
And to be clear, you say it's security only, so there's no way to add a starter to these systems?
No, that's funny. No, there's not.
Okay.
We don't have an add-on starter for this, but we still actually sell on the directed side an analog or an add-on starter for an analog or remote start, and we killed that off on the Vox side. God, it has to be 10 years ago, an add-on starter. But when we acquired DEI and I saw that, I completely fell off my chair. But again, if people buy it, I'll still bring it in for them. So,
okay,
yeah. The Vox SEC, I mentioned a little bit earlier a component-based program. So we had at Vox a couple of years ago a security and a remote start module that came with everything except RF. We had a remote start module, everything in the box except RF, and we had a security version of that as well. Our dealer base wasn't really in tune to the component-based program. And again, there's a lot of on paper, and when we looked at it and talked to certain dealers, there's a lot of cool flexibility that you have with being able to stock one module. So if you know you're going to do 100 or 500 remote starts, you'd stock one module and then a different percentage of the lower cost RF kits, 1-way, 2-way, 2-way LED, 2-way LCD, etc., and customize them for the consumer at time of sale. So the idea was there, made sense. The cost savings for a dealer on inventory they were carrying made sense. We just didn't get a lot of volume in the component-based program on the Vox side, on Prestige and Pursuit. We do on our digital products, on our Flash Logic lineup, obviously, being that's the module, and then you could, add RF to it or add CarLink, our cellular phone device to it, etc. So we decided to eliminate the component-based program. Last year, we probably cycled through the remainder. We're keeping the Vox SEC, the security version of that module. So this could be used as a standalone security module without RF. You could add a smartphone control to it, or you could add RF to it. But we have some higher volume customers that use this specifically in our fleet channels and stuff like that. So we really kept it around for them. But again, it's a component-based security system. So if you want a two-way LED security system or a two-way LCD or a LoRa or whatever, you could add any of our RF to it, or CarLink, our smartphone control.
You know, your component setup, it's very a la carte, right? It's very sushi menu-ish.
Yeah.
Why do you think that didn't work? Because for my mind, that looks great on paper to be able to inventory, different components and build as you go, depending on what your needs are.
Yeah, I mean, we really thought we put so much time in.
I'm sure.
A lot of products, and we had a prestige version, a pursuit version. Then we said, well, maybe that's too complex, so we smashed it all down in just to a Vox version of the module, because the brand of the module really didn't matter, right? It's what the consumer saw in their hand with the RF, and that's why we had the different branded RF kits. But again, I just think it's what the dealers are used to doing, and in analog, they were just used to having everything in one box. They knew their product mixes, whether it was a one button starter to a one-way start keyless, then to a combo. They knew what they wanted. There wasn't a lot of upselling, where conceptually it makes sense. A guy comes in, might want a one-way system to start for budget, but then could upgrade to a two-way LED or two-way LCD down the road, and then it's simply just changing out the RF. But again, it just
interesting
didn't have legs and grow. But
I think you're right. I think it has a lot to do with the point of sale and the way that's set up. I'm just comparing it to other categories. That's an ideal category for like car audio, for example, where you can build your system. You start with your base, and then you build from there, and you show the customers the different options, different price points, benefits, so on and so forth. But interesting.
That's funny. That was one of our selling points when we went in and tried selling the component program. We always use car audio for that. You don't buy a head unit, speakers, and an amp all in one box. It's all a la carte.
No, and they feel like they own it, like they made the choices and they're getting exactly what they wanted and what they're paying for. Yeah. I don't know, just visually, I'm just thinking of all the options, right? You have your base, which is, let's call it your brain, and then where do you want to go from there?
That's right? It. The only choice we had was, what do you want to do? A security system, a remote start keyless, or both? And then how do you want to control it? And you picked your RF. That's pretty much how simple.
But even this one, you could start with just security and add the starter later, right?
Well, you could with an add-on starter to it if you wanted to do that. But
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
Absolutely. So then we go to all of the RF kits that we have under the Prestige lineup. Excuse me. And like I said, these can all be used on the Vox SEC component program, the APS component programs, if anybody still had any of those left, and then of course our Flash Logic digital starter series, from the data start modules to the full combo unit, which we'll have another show on Flash Logic coming up. But all of the different RF kits, again, two-way starts out with the PE1M to LCDZ. That's the two-way LoRa. So the companion remote is a two-way as well. Then, the two-way LED transmitter set, the PE1M2 LEDZ right next to it to its right. That's a two-way LoRa LED remote. So again, the companion remote is a two-way LED transmitter as well. So you actually get two-way transmitters in that kit. And then down to our SST, or our 900 megahertz product, we have a really cool rechargeable LCD transmitter there. Then the regular LCD, then the two-way LED, then the one-way 5-button, and then you get into all the one-button transmitter offerings. So the PE1 and BTWZ2 is a two-way one-button, and in that particular case, it comes with two-way one-button transmitters in that system. Then just a longer range one-button one-way, and then our entry-level PE1PC. So those are pretty much the RF kits that you could use to add to any of the Flash Logic product that we have, or to one of our component-based programs. And then we can get into Dan's specialty.
Yeah, so one of the things that we were talking about earlier with analog versus digital, a lot of people hear analog and they think that it doesn't have some of the features that some of the top of the line systems like a DS4 or an FLRS BA would have. But as you can see here, over the last few years, we've taken a lot of those ideas from the DS4 and digital technology, and we've expanded it out into our analog system. So we've taken some time and some consideration and talked to a lot of our dealer base to see what types of features they would like. And we've tried to include as many of them as possible when doing our updates. One of the newest features that we have is programmable input controls. So with the compatible kits you see here on the screen, the 997, the 787, and the 596, we have the flexibility to reconfigure some of our inputs for other detection methods. So for example, if you're installing a 997 ZLR and you have to connect 4 door trigger wires, instead of using 4 diodes and diode isolating everything into one door trigger, you can re-provision some of the inputs for door trigger detection. So now you can just make wire-to-wire connections without using any additional diodes, which is really cool. Traditionally, that's only been available on some of the higher-end digital products, but now you can do it in the analog modules as well.
Where was this 20 years ago? Anyhow, yep.
It definitely would have made my life a lot easier.
No diodes, just straight wire. Interesting. Mm-hmm.
With the introduction of the Z series, we came out with NOCs, or negative output controls. So when the Z series launched a few years ago, you were able to re-provision the outputs on the module for other output methods. So if you needed 2 door lock wires, or you needed 2 parking light wires, you could re-provision those outputs so that you wouldn't have to diode isolate anything. This year, we've added a ground wall armed and a ground wall disarmed output. So if you're doing a security system and you wanted to have a normally closed or a normally open starter kill relay, you could wire that in. You could also add additional relays if you wanted to do, for example, a fuel cut or something like that to make your system a lot more secure. We also updated our dome light delay timer. So something that I didn't quite understand as I was traveling around and meeting some of the installers in the bays, a lot of installers are still using dome light as their door trigger for a security system.
Right.
And the reason they're doing that is because it's one single wire connection instead of 3 or 4 wire connections in some of the newer cars that have individual door triggers. So they're making one connection. The only downside to making that connection to the dome light is theater dimming dome lights in vehicles. Now, just about every car that comes out, when you close the door, the dome light stays on for 15, 20, 30 seconds, and then it'll slowly dim down. That can cause a false warning on your security system when the customer presses the lock button, especially with a two-way. You might see a customer press a lock button and then on their remote control, it's saying that the door is open. But really, that's just the dome light dimming out. We've always had a dome light delay timer built into our modules, but now we give the installer the ability to reprogram that and set it back to 0 if needed. It was always very difficult to reprogram the dome light delay timer. Now it's very easy. We've also added selectable alarm trigger length. A lot of customers like to have a longer alarm trigger. Maybe you live in an apartment building or your car is parked down the street if you live in a city. Now you can program the alarm trigger for all the way out to 2 minutes. So it'll do a full 2-minute alarm cycle, pause, and then repeat if any of the door triggers or trigger zones are still open. We updated our temperature start, which would probably be a popular feature in Canada. Our 997Z LR and our 997Z both support temperature start mode. And now you can customize the temperature that the vehicle will start. So these are in Fahrenheit. So I apologize. I'll have to do the Celsius conversions for everybody.
I don't understand. I don't know what that is.
So cold.
In the
it's
past,
cold, really cold and freaking cold. That's what that is.
In the past, it was 0 degrees Fahrenheit. That was the only option. So if you set up temperature start, if the car reached 0 degrees, it would start one time and warm up the engine. Now you can customize for one of the 5 options that you see here on the screen. And then we've also updated it so that it now incorporates our timer as well. So if you activate temperature start, it'll check the temperature sensor every 2 or 4 hours, whichever you have programmed. If the temperature is above the threshold, it'll wait until the next 2 or 4 hour mark. If the temperature is below the threshold, it'll remote start the car, and it'll do that for a full 24-hour period. That way, if it's extremely cold or we're having really bad weather, you can set up your remote start to start the car when it gets below the temperature threshold. It's a really cool feature.
What about the duration of the start? How long does it stay start? Is that
the duration of the start is whatever is programmed in your feature bank. So if you have a 20-minute remote start programmed, it'll run for 20 minutes and shut itself down.
So that runs the same programming as the regular start, not under a special. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. Yep. And we even have a remote start timer all the way out to 60 minutes. So if there's anybody running a diesel vehicle out there and it'll take a long time to warm up, we have a 60-minute runtime on all of our products. We've also added remote start service mode. This was available in all of our products in the past. When we moved to the Z series, it was omitted from some of the modules, but we updated everything so it all supports this. It's a really good feature, a very nice safety feature. If you park your car in a garage, especially an attached garage, or you take your car in for service, you can deactivate the remote start so that it can't accidentally be activated. Especially with all the telematics products that are out there now, you may take your car in for service and someone could, someone that has access to your app could start the car from miles away. This would prevent that from happening and make sure everybody either at home or at the service shop is safe.
Sorry, question about this. This is like a valet mode sort of, right?
Yeah.
Is this programmable from your remote?
It's programmable using the valet button, which is on the antenna on the windshield.
Okay, gotcha.
And it's completely independent from the security valet mode if you have a combo. So you can have the security system active and the remote start deactivated, which is really cool. We've also updated all of our systems so that they have a 15-minute runtime by default. This is what most installers like. It's a good runtime for most passenger vehicles. 15 minutes will get the car nice and warm, but it's not going to waste all the gas in the tank. Mm-hmm. We've also updated our system so that they have a 5-second diesel delay timer. A lot of the new vehicles, especially in the German models and the European models, they need a short delay so that it can bypass all of the security systems in the vehicle, such as transponder and things like that. So one of the requests from our installer base was adding a 5-second diesel delay timer. It's not long enough that it's going to warm up any diesel systems, but it's available for those European vehicles that may take a little bit longer to turn on all of their circuits before it can remote start. And then we also added a really cool keyless entry mode to our 901 TM. So traditionally, this has always been a 1-button remote start unit. You press the button 2 times, it remote starts the car. You press and hold the button and it shuts it down. Or it unlocks it while the vehicle's running if the factory keyless entry doesn't work. We've added this feature so that now you can have remote start and keyless entry all from a 1-button unit. So once this feature is activated, now if you press the remote button 1 time, it locks the doors. If you press it 2 times, it unlocks the doors. And then if you press and hold it, it will remote start the car. So you can easily upgrade a customer from a 1-button remote starter to a keyless entry unit just by turning this feature on and connecting the wires in the car. And then finally, our last feature that we added, this was actually reported by some consumers out there, and the feedback came through our tech department. All of our antennas, as you can see here on the screen, they all have a bright blue LED. Sometimes customers like it, sometimes they don't. Our tech department would get a lot of phone calls every year about a bright blue light flashing in their window. And the customers didn't like that flashing at night. So now we give you the ability to turn that LED off so that it doesn't flash anytime the vehicle is locked. And the one good thing about this is even if you turn it off for the customer and they bring the vehicle back, it doesn't affect feature programming. So the installer won't have to go and turn it back on if they want to get in there and change some of the features.
Because once you go into programming, it automatically will come on to help.
Exactly.
Gotcha. Okay.
So it'll flash so that you can navigate through all the programming features if you ever need to change anything.
Little things. It's the little things.
Yep. And then the last thing we want to touch on is the Vox University. Vox University is our home for everything Vox. We have guides on there. We have marketing materials and photographs, high-res photographs if you want to run any ads throughout the season. We have those available for you on Vox University. All of our sell sheets and digital catalogs, everything is there. And with the acquisition of Directed, now Vox University will link you right into DirectText. So you have access to that database that Directed was really known for in the industry. And all of that is available to you for free just for being a Vox or Prestige dealer. And then, of course, Vox Tech on Facebook is our Facebook forum. Everybody out there has a page now these days. The good thing about Vox and our page is we're not just talking about remote starts. We're not just talking about security systems. We're talking about everything from ADAS to video, security, remote start. There are even conversations going on about technologies we don't have in our lineup, but it's really just a place where everybody can communicate with each other, find out what's working for them, and hopefully, carry it over into their territory.
Awesome. On this note, I do want to remind our listeners, if you're tuning into this live or on demand, we had a great session with the tech team over at Directed. And they went in depth about the benefits to checking out DirectText online as well as their forum boards on Facebook. So make sure you check that out.
And then, of course, we always have phone tech support. One of the great things about the Prestige and Vox tech support is we have Saturday hours from 9 to 5 Eastern all year. So whether you're having a problem with a remote start in December on a Saturday or a security system or a video install issue on a Saturday in July, we are there on Saturday all year round when most of the other people in the industry just have remote start support during the season on Saturday. So we're always there for you. If you ever need help, you can give us a call.
Awesome. Anything you'd like to add to that very, very informative session there that Daniel just shared with us, Joe?
No, I can never add on to what Dan does.
Just can't go behind him. Just let him go. Let him go.
Just let him go. You can't corral that boy. I've tried too many times.
But I can see how those little details. I love how you express that a lot of those changes and updates come from feedback, either from techs themselves or from consumers, and
it's
that means a lot.
100%. And we don't. Well, it'd be nice to think we all sit around here and come up with these things all by ourselves. That's really, not how it happens. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I like to think it's a good thing. We've always been an organization that goes from sales down into our organization. So, we're all the product managers, product developers, all of us that are involved with product are equally involved in sales and are on the road. COVID, totally different situation, has limited our travel, but normally, we're constantly out on the road, talking to dealers, talking to installers. It's easy to come up with a price, right, and give a guy a price. But when I'd rather spend an hour talking to the installers back in the Bay to find out what they like or dislike about competitive products or issues that they're coming up with, even on our own product, and trying to figure out a way to make their lives easier. And then, we just drive that stuff back to our engineering department, to our factories, and come up with the most eloquent solution that we possibly can. And we do that, again, across everything. It's no different here than it is with the video team or anybody else. So
apparently this Mike guy thinks that you guys are good looking.
Love me some Mark Martulia. He's a good friend of ours out in Massachusetts.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we did the rounds, gentlemen. We got people to get updated on what's going on at the Prestige Camp at Vox. We talked about some brand new product, right? That came out, especially that top of the line product that now comes with a 2-way LCD remote and a companion 2-way LED remote. We talked about the importance of analog, and maybe dealers should pay a little bit closer attention to that, put a little bit more emphasis on their ordering for this season coming up. I do want to remind our listeners that we do have a very highly anticipated CMA Live coming up with a bunch of important people in the remote starter world and a roundtable discussion. I don't think you want to miss that. If you're in the remote start business, a lot of important information that's going to come out of that. Dan, last word. You talked about technical support. You talked about both the forum as well as the hotline. What about instructional videos? Anything of that nature? Is there anywhere that the techs could find some more information, like that type of stuff?
Yeah, all of our videos that we have, all of those materials are going to be on Vox University. So
they're all on Vox University.
Yep. If you don't have an account, make sure you sign up for one. We'll get you approved within a few hours. And all of those materials are located there at Vox University.
And the YouTube channel.
And YouTube as well. Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, Joe, I know you kind of hinted at that message, but I'm going to leave you the last word here for dealers tuning in. They've kind of absorbed the new audio, the new Prestige line. What advice do you have for them moving forward? Yeah,
for sure. Get ready for a very interesting remote start season. That's all I can tell you guys.
Let's get ready to rumble. It's gonna be.
I would do my planning early. I'm sure. Again, we're not immune to what's been going on with car audio over the summer and everything. So do your planning. Get dialed in and get ready to go. And again, if you haven't used analog starters in the past and are all digital, you might want to think about a backstop and just to keep you in business for this coming season.
All right. Sounds good. You heard it from the experts right here on CMA Connected. Daniel, Joe, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We'll be chatting shortly.
All right, great.
Talk to you soon.
Okay.
There you have it, guys. That was Joe Dentamaro and Daniel Bisceglia, both from the team of Vox Electronics, specifically today talking about Prestige products. Some key information provided by Dan with some new product, and you might want to rewind and listen to what Joe has to say. I think there's a deep message in his words, and I'm sure there's some wisdom behind that. So I would encourage you to certainly take what Joe said and consider everything about that when it comes to this season. Guys, it's a great start to the week. We'll be back here Wednesday and Friday for 2 more episodes of CMA Connected this week. I'm going to keep the flow rolling, bring you more stuff to learn to make sure that you guys are ready for this fall season ahead of us. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Thanks for tuning in to this session of CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. Until next time, we connect.